Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. And this is your host, Dr. Will, and I am here with Connie Hamilton, and we will be talking about PLCs. So, Connie, for those who will be watching the show and may not know who you are, will you please introduce yourself?
Well, as you mentioned, Connie Hamilton, and I'm a curriculum director in the west side of Michigan. And we have a real small school district, about 1,000 students. And if my name sounds familiar to you, it might be you've seen it around Twitter a little bit. So I do curriculum, elementary principal, and just love all stuff PLC.
Awesome, awesome. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the term PLCs, what exactly is a professional learning community, and what are their characteristics?
Well, it's interesting. I think this is one of the terms in education. We always have all these buzzwords that we're using out there. And I've noticed that this particular one often is used interchangeably with all different kinds of various groups. So one mistake that people use when talking about PLCs is that it's just any time a group of teachers get together to talk. And really what a PLC is a time where teachers come together to learn together, not in a someone's going to teach me something, but hey, let's all come together and figure out how we are going to make sure that students achieve. So the underlining purpose for a PLC is always about student achievement, not just about teacher learning.
So, what is the leadership's role in implementing a professional uh, learning community that takes into account the different grade levels, subject areas, and degrees obtained, and years of experience of teachers? Because especially when you say teachers getting together to learn and discuss and work together for the benefit of students, but if I am a first year teacher, I have a different skill set, and I may need to learn things differently than someone who has a master's degree and 20 years in the classroom. So, what is the leadership's role in making sure that PLC is organized, designed in a way that takes into account the various experiences and learning needs of teachers?
Well, in order to have an effective professional learning community, the group needs to have some long-term goals. There needs to be a purpose for that, and there needs to be an establishment of trust. So I think while it is beneficial to have some flexible PLCs, if someone's just beginning that process of utilizing a PLC, probably the most important thing for a leader to do is to make sure that everyone has a clear purpose for why we're using PLCs, what we hope to gain out of it, and then initially be strategic with groups of people who trust each other. I think it's less important in regards initially to look at the experience or common grade levels and that piece, and as it is, I can talk about where my strengths and where my weaknesses are because I'm in a group of people that I trust. So that's probably the most important piece. But then once you have an establishment of a whole culture of trust within your school district or your school building, then you can be really creative in, do I want to have all third grade teachers together? Do I want to have a group of people that are really mathematically inclined? You can begin to look at the purpose of the content and establish your PLC groups there. But initially, I think willingness and trust is the best way to build a culture of PLCs in your school.
Okay, so you threw in the word flexibility, which is a segue into this question.
Okay.
Are PLCs by nature flexible in their design to address the ongoing needs of teachers? For example, the building of skill in terms of content knowledge versus the building of will in terms of teachers' attitudes and their individual practice.
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, in my school, we're establishing some groups of learners coming together to look at what we're implementing a new strategy. And we had some very good conversations at the school improvement level about how we wanted to structure those learning groups. And initially we decided to do it by grade level, but then afterwards we began to look at, okay, which groups of people are going to be healthy together, which groups of people are going to be able to look at a broader range of skill in regards to what it is that they're learning. So, you know, you always have people that have different strengths, and so when you can get a team together that person A has this strength, person B has that strength, and you can strategically as a leader place those people together, it just explodes like wildfire.
Okay, so let me get on this. What made you look into changing how you organize that PLC? Because you just said originally you looked at it by grade level, but then you started looking at strengths. What was that process like to say, we need to look at this from another direction?
Well, as I mentioned initially, that trust feature. So, you know, in a lot of schools, grade levels are or departments are accustomed to working together. They're familiar, they know each other's quirks and that type of thing. And so initially when you begin that process, but when you start looking at a school-wide implementation strategy, sometimes that perspective can be narrow. So perhaps then in year 2, you're still looking at that same strategy. So, you know, for us it was Thinking Maps. So we did Thinking Maps by grade level, and then in year 2, we're saying, okay, Thinking Maps really isn't exclusive to second grade. So how do we allow second grade teachers to be able to see how this expands, and then what are kindergarten and first grade teachers that are doing that lead into it? Same thing, process that we'll be using in math implementation is beginning with that grade level component and then expanding. So, you know, for me as a leader, a lot of times I'm strategic in who I want to bring to the table for a group that I'm involved in. You know, selfishly, I want to bring people that have different strengths than I do. So if I'm in a PLC, I'm going to bring somebody, invite somebody to join that has strengths in technology that I might not have, or somebody who's really rocking it as far as community involvement or parent involvement. And so when you bring all of those lenses of strength together, what you can come out with a collaborative group is just exponentially better than any individual person could do.
Interesting. So when you changed your design to include strengths, what were teachers' reactions to that from what they had done previously?
Well, one benefit is they're already familiar with the process. So they already have an experience of where this process of participating in a PLC is beneficial. So when they come in with that experience, then we say, all right, here's where we're going to change it up. And again, as I said at the very beginning, when you provide the purpose to say, I understand that, you know, you're comfortable in this particular group. Now we're going to expand it, and the purpose for that group is to begin looking at multiple perspectives of how we're implementing, you know, what strategy B. So I think that if a leader just said, hey, we're going to change it just to change it, you're probably going to get quite a bit of resistance. So when you say, this is our goal, this is the rationale for why we're doing this, and for me, one of the things that I like to do if I'm the facilitator of a group and I want to kick off that PLC, the first thing that I say is, you know, here's why each of you were selected. I go through and say, you know, this person has experience with A, this person has experience with B, this person has experience with C, and we have problem X that we all need to solve, and so everyone is a valuable contributor. So that, I think, levels the playing field and provides a really authentic professional learning community, as opposed to, you know, just because I'm the curriculum director or because I'm the principal, a lot of times people see me as I'm automatically going to take on that leadership role. And that's really not the model of a PLC at all. everyone is an equal learner and has equal contribution. And so setting that stage to identify the strengths or the successes that people have had that we want to bring out, that's really beneficial.
Okay, so let's expound on that idea, because as you said that people, even you said people at your school have this idea of, because you are the leader, you are going to lead this
Yeah.
discussion as opposed to a collaborative experience. And I think that's what happens with teachers, generally speaking, when they think of a PLC at their school. They are so used to, I'm just sitting here. This is going to be a sit and get experience, and whether it be the academic coach, the principal, or an outside consultant coming in, they're there to receive as opposed to being an active participant, and that tends to sort of turn them off and them not be invested in that PLC. So please talk more about that participatory experience and active engagement from teachers, and where that idea or practice came to be for you, and sort of how you have seen it be successful at your school.
Well,
I know there's a lot of questions, but
yeah, no, but I think the essence of the question really is about, what's the difference between a sit and get professional development session and a true PLC? And as I kind of alluded to at the very beginning, I think that this buzzword PLC is really become very murky, and that people use it interchangeably with any time that a group of teachers get together. So one thing is to really differentiate what you're calling groups of professionals getting together. So, you might have grade level meetings, you might have PD meetings, you might have staff meetings, and you have PLC meetings, but they're all different. So once you can differentiate, then people know a PLC is a purpose for learning. So one of the ways that you can do that, if a school district is just beginning, or if teachers have a misunderstanding of that, is to make sure that you choose a topic where there's not an expert, and that it really is a piece that is new for everyone. And so therefore you set the stage to say, nobody really knows what's going to end up here, what we're going to come out with, but we're all here to learn together, and stick with that. In the norms, when you establish norms at the beginning of a PLC, it's important that everyone's involved and that everyone has a role. So in between your meetings, you may have, I'm going to grab a research article, or I'm going to attend a Twitter chat, or I'm going to read this book, or I'm going to communicate with my professional learning network to see what I can find. And then everyone brings back information, and then you can synthesize that information to say, okay, how's that going to work for our school? So that process of setting that up initially provides a good experience of what a true PLC is. Initially, the very first, I remember so clearly the very first time, I think I got a little teary-eyed, of when my school really took ownership of PLC. Is an email got kicked out at the end of the school year in the beginning of summer, and I had a second grade teacher who had attended a conference on Math Talk, and she had a textbook that she hadn't had time to read. And in the email she said, I don't know anything about Math Talk other than what I got in the 6 hours. I don't know how to implement it, but I want to implement it by fall. And I would really appreciate anybody who wants to join me a couple of times this summer so that we can take a look at how we might implement Math Talk in the fall. So I'm not going to promise you anything that I can contribute other than I'm willing to learn together. And I saved that email. It was really quite a turning point for us to say that someone was willing to take a risk and publicly say, I'm not the expert, I don't know anything about it, and extend the invitation to say, please join me in learning. And I intentionally, although I was starving to participate in that, but as the leader I intentionally didn't go. and I needed that to just stay really authentic and for them to learn. I kept in touch, how's it going? Is there anything that you need? Do you need space? Do you need food? Do you need time? Do you need resources? But I didn't sit in the group. And sometimes that's hard for a leader to let go of that because they always feel like I have to be the one, but you can't build capacity in your school district if you're always the one. And so that's really the best piece of PLCs, is that what comes out of it is a whole bunch of leaders.
Wow. That's nice right there. I like that. I like that.
Jorgensen.
Oh, yeah. So, in doing these and the successes that you have clearly seen, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of your PLCs? Do you look at whether or not you are actually building capacity in teachers? Do you look at 9 weeks grades? Do you look at test score? In any data that you look at or anything you observe, how do you then say, these PLCs that we've done for the year were effective and were worth investing our time in?
I think there's two pieces of that. The first one is the PLC group themselves needs to set an expectation or some evaluative components of what they deem success to be from their perspective. And sometimes when you're beginning, you don't know. I mean, if you're just exploring different options and, here we have a problem and we don't know how we're going to solve it, that's kind of hard to determine whether or not your PLC is successful, because success could be designed by, we ruled out these 3 strategies that we know don't work. And that can be really what comes out of it. So the team needs to determine what is beneficial for them. As a leader or as part of a school improvement team, what we look for is what comes out of the PLC group as the strategy that they intend to implement. So if everyone in the group says, this is what we're going to do because research is supporting it and it meets our particular problem intended to improve student achievement, then when I do walkthroughs in the classroom, I'm looking for evidence of people who have implemented the strategies identified in the PLC. And then I communicate that out to the staff. And so, oh, I saw Mike is doing this, or I saw Carrie is doing that. And that provides follow-through, accountability, and it also celebrates all of their hard work to say, hey, we're taking it from there. Now the caution is, sometimes PLCs are pilots, sometimes they're teachers taking risks and new things that they're trying, and so if you put too much merit on you need to have immediate success and immediate data, that can be counterproductive. And it can discourage teachers from trying new things or having a learning curve, or it could send the message that the first time you do it, it needs to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then we throw away the baby with the bathwater and try something new. And educators are notorious for doing that, so that's not where we want to be. So we want to take a look at, did we implement it with fidelity? Did we have enough information? Did we give it enough time? Is there one component that maybe needs to be tweaked, that maybe the program or the strategy isn't what's ineffective, but maybe you gave it 20 minutes a day and it needs to have 30 minutes a day, or it's hard to say without looking at it specifically. So it's really twofold. It's the team identifying what their goals are, and then making sure that there's some accountability at the leader level to make sure that that's not just a waste of time of people talking about what we should do but never actually getting around to doing it.
Awesome. Woo! This is all right. I'm enjoying this so much. I need to take me a little sip of beverage in a minute. This is all right.
Yeah, tell me when I'm on camera so I can do this.
Because I had me some tea earlier, and it was kind of gone now. But before we go, I want to to get your recommendations. So again, there are a lot of school leaders out there who think of that PLC as that sit and get, and
Right.
that's just what they do several times a year. So, imagine you are here. You're able. This podcast, it was being broadcast live throughout every school district in the entire world. That would be awesome, though. What would you say to either district leaders or school leaders who are charged with implementing PLCs in their schools?
I would say make sure that if you are implementing a professional learning community, that you understand really what a professional learning community is. And if you have a history of doing professional development in small groups and calling that PLC, then the first thing you need to do is immediately differentiate those labels and introduce what a PLC is, what the expectations are, set some norms. So, and by norms, I don't mean rules. Rules are things like, keep your cell phone on silent, be on time, come prepared. Those are rules. Norms are things like no single individual is going to monopolize the entire time, that we're going to stay on focus, that the purpose for the PLC is going to be positive outcomes for students, that's always, someone just the other day said, no stinking thinking, which I thought was kind of cute, that it's all about problem solving. So establish those norms, and then also have a set of rules. And then the leader's piece is providing a purpose, but I would say resist the temptation to lead it yourself, because it's very, very hard to overcome that perception of that it's a sit and get if you have a leader who is there, because people will sit around and wait to get it from that person, and it also puts that person, if it's a teacher leader, puts them in a really difficult position if they understand what a PLC is, but people are looking at them to go, okay, what do we do next? Where's the agenda? That's really not what it's all about. So provide purpose and have trust in your people that they can lead this charge of professional learning communities.
Excellent. People, you didn't know. I didn't know. Connie brought it today. This was a fantastic show. I thank you so much, Connie, for being on the show, and hope that you will come back as a guest again.
I would love to. Thanks, Dr. Will.
Awesome. Now, everyone, thanks for watching the show. As always, you will see Connie's bio and how to be able to get in contact with her on the blog post. So remember, people, be you, EDU, and thank you for watching another episode of the Dr. Will Show. Thank you, everyone.